Welcome to this full moon in Scorpio activation program. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about the archetype of Scorpio and its influence, very powerful influence this year through its ruling planet, Pluto. You've heard me talk a lot about this configuration of Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto coming together for the first time this close to one another in the sign of Capricorn. And tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about one of those planets because the full moon is in Scorpio. And I want to talk a little bit about why we do ritual around the full and new moon and how it actually impacts your career, since so much of my focus is helping people with their careers and their discovery of their soul purpose. And I'm going to talk about how new moons and full moons can influence that when done in ritual. And when we do it in a group like this, even more powerfully can you manifest. And then I'm going to talk about the energies coming in now as we are moving closer to the solar eclipse, very powerful solar eclipse in June. And then we're going to start the activation, and we're going to really be working with this energy of Scorpio, which has to do with how you work with your shadow, because Scorpio rules the shadow. So you're going to have an opportunity to work with some dynamic, and I will be talking about the characteristics of Scorpio, so you get to choose on a menu of things that how you want to work with Scorpio. And we're going to be working with the second chakra, because Scorpio rules the sexual chakra, or the creative center, in our bodies and in our etheric body. And then I'm going to give you some tips for managing change in this time until we meet again. And then we're going to end with a group, as I've been doing on each of these moon activations, one that is for the entire planet, specifically focused on a particular issue. The last time we met, I talked about, doing a treatment for all the health workers, for example. This time we're going to be talking about a particular part of the world. This is what came to me to move through, which has to do with helping people who are trapped in sex trafficking, because Pluto rules the Scorpio rules sexuality, and we're going to be clearing that chakra of our own personal body. Then we're going to extend that to those in the world who are having to be victims, of this, as well as those who are working in jobs. I received so many emails from people who saw me on the Gaia show that I did on the Healing Matrix, who are trapped in jobs they hate and feeling like they're having to prostitute themselves. So we're going to send energy to those people as well, and you might be included in that, if it fits. So let's start by talking about Scorpio. So Scorpio is the most complex, I swear, the most complex sign of the entire zodiac, because it rules so many different aspects of the 8th house. Scorpio rules how we are, how I see it connected to everything in this particular archetype is that it has to do with how we are doing business with others. How do we receive the energy of others? It rules sexuality. It rules passive income, money that we receive from others that we don't necessarily earn through a salary or a job. We can get 8th house, rules royalties. It rules annuities that we receive, from interest, like interest. If you win the lottery, if you inherit money, this is all the domain of Scorpio. It's an interesting sign in that it has 3 different symbols connected to it, like no other sign of the zodiac. The lowest level of expressing the energy of Scorpio is the scorpion. So when someone is scorpionic, they tend to be oriented toward revenge when they're hurt. Someone who, for example, as a contrast, expresses through the energy of Pisces will respond with feeling like a victim and go inside and go into their shell, where the energy of Scorpio will, and we all have this somewhere in our chart, This is a shadow aspect that we're here to clear. That's what all of these activations are, we're in a time of such tremendous spiritual acceleration, and all spiritual accelerations, every single time we've had an evolutionary leap in consciousness, there's been a fallout. There was an evolutionary leap that took place during the Ice Age. So there is, and that's not to be careless or callous about those who have passed and died and have suffered through the COVID-19, crisis. However, this is a call for us all to clean up our diets, to become strong in our immune system and deal with fear. And this is also Scorpio's domain, because as you move up from the energy of the Scorpion, and that where an individual might respond with revenge, and we've all had those moments where we felt like if we were betrayed by someone that we wanted to hurt them in some way. Everyone has had those thoughts. So that's the lowest level of Scorpio. Then the energy that moves up as you awaken in Scorpio is the eagle. And the eagle energy is the ability to be able to zoom in. An eagle can be way, way, way up on a mountain and see its prey way down in the valley and be completely focused and zero in on that particular, dinner for the night. And that energy, as it applies as an archetype to all of us, is how are you able, and Scorpio sun people and people of Mercury and Scorpio are good at this, how are you able to just filter everything out and focus? Scorpio rules research as well. Scorpios are usually very good at digging things up and getting, they're strong researchers. So developing this ability, we're not going to just be dealing with the shadow aspects, the darkest parts of ourselves that, are greedy or revengeful at the lowest level of Scorpio, but also what in us needs to now be focused on a particular area of our life for death and transformation. Because we are going through a huge collective death. There is ego death and transformation going on. And we are entering a collective dark night of the soul. And what a dark night of the soul, and I've said this before, but I want to just repeat this. I talk about it in my book, The Lifequake Miracle, as what I call the cosmic barbecue. And so what that is how do we begin to separate the ego that was attached to an identity? And everyone has probably some place in their life where their ego is going through purification, where they are not the same person, that they once were. I'm working with a lot of my clients who are really going through this, very successful people who are experiencing I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do what I'm doing, but I don't know what to do next. And that is that unknown space where powerful things can happen. Truly miraculous things can happen when we enter the unknown, the not known. So as a collective energy, we are entering the unknown. We don't know what this spiritual adventure we're on, where it's going to lead us next year. So the next level above the eagle, that ability to be able to really zoom in on a particular subject that you want to examine, or within ourselves, something you want to take on and really look at and really experience a healing around. The next level up, the highest manifestation of Scorpio, is the Phoenix bird. And I know this one very well because I have my North Node in Scorpio. So I've certainly gone through death and transformation many times over. And the myth of the Phoenix bird, just to recap, is that when this bird, it does this consciously, realizes it cannot fly any higher. It cannot function at any higher level of functioning. It purposefully drops down to earth into a pyre of fire and gets consumed into ashes. And out of the ashes, it reconstructs into higher form. And that's what we're talking about now. We are going through a complete collective ash making, ASH making. In everyone's life, the story is different. but we are sharing a collective experience of suffering around this loss of the old self. So when you begin to go into the Phoenix Bird experience, is to do this consciously, to not wait until you're dragged. I had many experiences where I had to be dragged through change. And that's what I'm passionate about with all of you now, is how do we negotiate change on this planet in a way that we don't have to torture ourselves first, because we are not going to survive doing that crisis-driven type of change making. We're not going to survive, not as a species and not as individuals. So the other aspect of Scorpio has to do with how one experiences your creative center. The second chakra in the etheric body, sometimes called the sexual chakra, also governs your creativity. It's your sexuality. There's trauma if you've had rape, incest, any kind of sexual trauma, and many people, not just women, have had some kind of experience, either in childhood or in the workplace, where they were put in a position where in order to have an income, they had to deal with their boss. I actually confronted a client around this the other day who has as an employee someone he's in love with and who doesn't want to be involved with him in any other way but in the workplace. And they're, doing house construction and house flipping. And I said to him, when he mentioned to me that if she gets involved with her ex-husband again, I'm firing her. I said, do you realize that is sexual harassment? So there's many people who keep jobs, both men and women, who prostitute themselves to stay in a job, not just sexually, but just giving their life away to a work that no longer feels viable and feels soul driven. So when we do this activation, there's going to be an opportunity for you. I've been already working with everyone who's on this call and everyone who will listen to this in replay and on my website eventually, to be working with whatever. We're going to clear out any old sexual trauma, any old trauma to your creative center. For some people, it's that they never got permission to be creative. I've worked with so many clients who, when they told a parent that they wanted to become an artist and they wanted to major in art in college, were forced to go get a business degree, for example. And so they never got to express their genuine, natural inclination to be an artist. And then what happens is you get into midlife and you've put 20 years into a job that is sucking your soul, and a crisis happens. For some people who've come to me, it's come in the form of a physical crisis. So it's so important to be clearing out right now. At this time, we have so much power available to us in the collective to clear things out. It's like karma is speeding up. So we get to, if you do this work of clearing out old stuff, anything that's kept you in survival. Last time we dealt with the base chakra, and we talked about mostly around survival having to do with actual physical survival and what constitutes security or lack thereof. Now we're moving up into the sexual chakra, and we're dealing with, what is in my creative potential is not being expressed. And what is the story I'm telling as to why I can't express my creativity? What are all the reasons? Because I have kids, because I have a job, because my parents won't give me permission to do that, or my husband won't give me, or my wife won't give me. Whatever the excuses are, there is a blockage if you're not expressing this energy creatively. So you're going to have an opportunity as we move into this activation now to just go into inquiry and just allow yourself, while I'm guiding you through, to see what wants to present itself. What is it that wants to, and just it may show up in a very surprising kind of way. All right. And I also would like you to, as we begin the activation, to hold a space. That sometimes what happens when many people come together on Zoom is that it kind of can blow the circuits out. So what we're going to do as a group, before we actually start working in the divine matrix field, is to hold an intention, if you would, with me, that our internet connection is going to hold, so that I can give you this powerful healing. So just allowing yourself now to close your eyes. Yeah, just close your eyes. And drop into your heart. We're going to start with the heart. And really allowing your hand to connect really deeply with your heart. Remembering all the ways that this hand has expressed love to others and to animals, your pets, and now directing that energy into your own heart and heart chakra. And just keep breathing that in, imagining like there are little lungs inside your heart. And you're just breathing that into your lungs, into those little lungs inside your heart. Just keep breathing deep into your lungs, into your heart, back and forth with these little lungs inside your heart. And from the heart and all that love, we're going to send a ray of light from the heart chakra down into your pelvic cavity. We're going to start with the physical body in your pelvic cavity. Just breathing into your pelvic cavity. For those who don't have a uterus or fallopian tubes and ovaries or whatever, just see this as your creative center. For those who do, or for the men on the call, it may be your prostate, your testes, all of these organs. We're going to just bring healing energy into the sexual organs. And we're going to activate a higher function. So setting an intention for releasing into the divine matrix, is sending it out into the divine matrix. That's all you have to have as an intention. You don't have to know what it looks like, but just sending that energy into the divine matrix. Everything that was before this moment, how you've expressed yourself creatively, how you've expressed yourself sexually, letting that story, even if it was a good story, letting it go so that you can come into this now moment. On the full moon, we do releasing. That's why it's always after the moon is exactly full. Do we do this kind of releasing ceremony for the next 2 weeks until the new moon. So allowing yourself to just keep releasing into the divine matrix everything that has come before this moment as to how you've expressed yourself creatively and sexually, and how you've received the energy of others. If there's been a blockage around receiving, around feeling deserving, worthy of receiving, if I didn't work hard for it, do I deserve to receive money, attention, love, whatever it might be? You can let that go now. All that old stuff around deserving, so that we can begin to activate the powerful sense that your very existence is enough to be loved, to be supported by this universe. Just keep holding a powerful energy around that this is your new reality. Your new reality is one of having power that comes from accessing this divine matrix. It no longer has to come from working hard. And this is how we create miracles. So activating something that you want to put into this divine matrix, that's the part of the higher level of Scorpio, of the recreation of the phoenix bird into its next level of evolution. Who is the you that wants to start coming through you now? Yes. Yes, so allowing now to turn to the top of your head with your eyes still closed and allowing for a golden column of light to come running through the crown, through the brain, both in through the etheric body and the physical body, all the way down, back down to the pelvic cavity. Allowing that golden light to just flush everything out, transmuting everything that's old and empowering this new creative you. This new you that gets to be supported. Just because you ask for it. With genuine feelingization for that which is going to be in your highest good to express your full potential. The universe will support you. So that's what we're intending now. This miracle change in consciousness, that you are now easily and effortlessly supported by the universe to realize your greatest dreams. Now keep letting more golden light through. Just keep letting it come through, knowing that you're part of this powerful matrix of energy that everyone is participating in. So everyone is empowering everyone else. It's an exponential energy miracle making. And then now breathing down and allowing yourself now to access guides, whatever that means for you. It can be angelic guides. It can be from other dimensions like the Pleiadians or the Arcturians, if you resonate with that. If you resonate just simply with accessing your full potential self. And that is something I do when I work with my clients, is going into a parallel universe. All you have to do is have the intention that you are accessing a parallel universe where your full potential is already expressing itself. From linear time, we call it the future. But what we're going to do now is bring that you back through time, collapsing time, just with your intention. I now am ready. That's all you have to do is say, I now am ready to start expressing my full potential self right here in this reality, in this dimension. Okay. There's so much tingling going on. I'm feeling it, like my nose is itching, and I don't know if everybody else is feeling that, but there's a lot of power coming in. We've got a lot of guides up there, supporting us, as well as all of our full potentials in other dimensions coming through time, collapsing time, to speed up our spiritual evolution so that we can quickly now begin to move into our full potential self right here in this world as we come through this year. So notice now how that feels down into your pelvic cavity, just feeling the power of this filled with light, filled with light. Yes, 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 yes. And then gently bringing your awareness to around your body, 6 feet, just have as an intention, 6 feet out in every dimension, 360 degrees, all the way down into Mother Earth, above your head, to the left and right, 360-degree circumference of radiant light, 6 feet out, that you are now in this gorgeous cocoon of radiant light. And when this cocoon is ready to have you morph into the butterfly, it will happen. If you simply allow yourself to be in the gestation, the liquefaction that has to happen, right? For a caterpillar to become a butterfly, it has to become nothing. So your willingness, your humility to be willing to let yourself completely die to your old identity and stay in the unknown, be in the unknown, while working with your various selves that are in the cellar of your consciousness, bringing everything together into holiness, W-H-O-L-Y, holiness. That as you have this time, and it may be, all the way through the year and into the next year, that we're going to be at home more, maybe off and on, that use this time to discover, who am I in the unknown? Who is the me that has never existed before, that is making up a new story now? So allowing yourself to actually, before we come back, just envisioning a glimpse into that you that's fully expressing your creativity, that's allowing yourself to receive good things from others and from the universe. And then gently allow yourself to slowly come back to the room. Taking a nice deep breath, and just notice what you feel in your body. Just notice how your body feels now. Notice how your pelvic cavity feels. How your legs feel. How your spine feels. Taking another nice deep breath. So here's a few tips for managing change in a time of transition. One of the things that is really important when you go out into the world, and that's to do anything. That's either the mundane tasks of going to the grocery store, or to the bank, or wherever you may be going. Or if you are working away from home, when you go into the workplace, that you prepare, just as we did this exercise of moving your etheric body out 6 feet in all directions, filled with light, that you do this before you leave the house. I highly, highly recommend this. We're living in a very fearful world. And we become at the effect of that. Most of the time, we don't even know when we come home that we've been slimed by other people's fears. So one of the things that I recommend when you're going into any kind of public place where there's going to be other people is to do this preparation work of the, becoming a bubble girl and bubble boy of radiant light, and having as an intention before you go into a public space, I am love. Only love comes into my field. Only love goes out. And that you have as an intention that you are the source of radiant light. That you could be the one person that's in the grocery store who's standing inside a reality of love, pure, unconditional love. And you taking that stand can make the biggest difference in the world for the entire store. You can permeate the whole store. In fact, what I do is before I leave the house, if I know exactly where I'm going, I fill all of those spaces with love and light before I get there. And it makes it easy. I had an incredible miracle the other day where, I had 1 hour to get to Trader Joe's and Whole Foods and get home. And I thought, okay, this is going to have to require a major miracle. Well, in the Course in Miracles, there is no such thing as big and little miracles. It's all the same. It's about changing your perception. So, interestingly enough, I got there and it was 5 minutes before the change, which I didn't do purposely, between people who were over 60 who got to go in and people who were, and so there weren't very many people standing in line at Trader Joe's, which was a huge miracle. Every single time I've gone there, it's been around the block. So that was my first miracle. Then just by sending radiant light into the store, everybody was so friendly. And I don't wear a mask, that's some personal preference based on the data. And I don't have comorbidity factors that I'm dealing with. And I'm living in a city that has had a low incidence of the virus. So at least reported. So for me, my protection is this bubble of light. And it was magical. The wonderful cashiers, it couldn't have been nicer, couldn't have been more lovely. Really patient because I brought my own bags. And so that takes more time when they're checking you out. And then the same thing happened at Whole Foods. I walked right in, So we can create miracles when we don't engage with fear. So tip number 2 is to be looking at, at UCLA, there's been a department there since the 80s called the Psychoneuroimmunology Department, and they study the impact that the psyche has on the immune system. A lot of Norman Cousins' work, had to do with this, and now David Bressler, for many years, is an MD and PhD who's done acquired so much data on the impact that fear or lack thereof has on cancer patients. So the more that you can engage, the minute you start to feel yourself going into fear, allow yourself to think about some experience from your past where you felt total trust. So this is the antidote to whatever mindset has entered into your consciousness. Sometimes that can come at 3 o'clock in the morning, or we're awakened by some of our subconscious fears. So the key is to drop into the body first and feel into, this is Scorpio's domain, is where in our ego needs to go through death and transformation. So sometimes this comes to the surface in the middle of the night for us to actually work with. And the way to work with it is to literally, as the eagle does, goes right to its prey, go right into your body, right into that place where you're feeling the fear. Where am I feeling it? Where is it in my body? It's not just in your head, somewhere in your body. Breathe into that space where the fear is gripping you. Then bring a column of golden light, just like we did, through the top of your head, right into that place where the fear is. And then think about, once you've done that alchemy work, this is what it does. It transmutes leaded consciousness into gold, enlightenment, golden enlightenment. Once you've done that work, on the releasing of the fear, then remember a time where you felt trust. So do that piece last, the part about engaging in an experience where you actually did, even though it looked like something was going to be ominous about a situation, you chose trust. You chose to trust that things were going to work out. And if you have no experience that you can think of where you've ever been able to trust in the face of big transitions, then think about someone else that you admire who has that kind of courage, and access them as a role model, and just keep allowing that energy, their energy, or the you that has shown up trusting in the past, to come into your body, to come right into that place that was feeling that fear, and anchor it. I also like to bring it into the heart. So that's another kind of technique, is to, once you have engaged with the trusting part of you, to bring it into your heart chakra and breathe, just deeply breathe that feeling of trust right into the heart chakra. And there's a story, a client was telling me a story this morning that was just amazing. I just want to share with you. That's such a metaphor for this time. And what she was sharing was that there are these bees that congregate. They're called the cliff bees in Nepal, in certain areas of the Himalayas, off of this cliff. And these honey hunters, literally under perilous conditions, climb all the way up to this cliff to get the honey off. And these are big bees they're big hives. They're really big hives. What's interesting to me about the story, though, is that there's a ritual. And to come back to the idea of ritual, there's a ritual that's done by the tribe before the honey hunters make this climb, which is to protect them and to take them into a vibrational field that allows them to feel absolute trust, absolute fearlessness, and probably more like a hypnotic suggestion of going into an altered state to get this particular honey. And this particular honey that is made, it's interesting, the bees actually eat the rhododendron plant, which would be poisonous for humans to eat. And you can't consume this particular honey in large amounts. It's hallucinogenic. But the way the tribe reveres it, which is very different than how this honey sometimes is sold, which is to rich Asian businessmen, is that for the tribe, it's a very sacred ritual. And what's interesting was that the documentarians, who were all suited up in their bee suits, were getting bit like crazy. And these guys who were climbing had just this like light screen over their face, like a light veil, and incurred almost no bee stings. So it just goes to show you that when you're in a state of trust, total love, and you radiate that love as you go out into the world, you are stronger than this virus or any bacteria or any fungi or any toxin. I mean, and I've been there. My home was torched 20 years ago. It had to be torched because I had a mold infestation. So I know what it is to be at the effect of a toxin. And so when we practice this quickening our vibration, strengthening our vibration, going into trust, what starts to happen is our immune system gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And we then can set a tone for the entire collective. And so that's what I'm inviting you to do, is to be part of this kind of new energy. So the last invocation that I would like to do with you, we're going to do this invocation for the collective, for every person who is having to either do a job that they feel is prostituting themselves, or that has been, in the worst case scenario, has been kidnapped into sex trafficking, that we're going to hold an energy for the end of this, that this isn't going to exist on the planet in our new evolution, in this new leap. There isn't going to be a place for sex trafficking on this planet where innocent children, are taken, or parents are sell them, into this trade because they have no money. So, because I have no judgments about people who, when you're in survival, you're in survival. And if you have a child that you can spare because you have so many children, it happens. But we as a collective in this next invocation and activation can actually, through our intention of sending light to every person who is expressing the prostitute archetype on the planet right now, so that they can experience some kind of miracle, a paradigm shift, truly a paradigm shift. I've worked with 3 or 4 different prostitutes, actually, call girls, over the course of my career. And in every single case, even though they were making a lot of money, in every single case, they had sexual molestation in childhood. So things are not as they appear on the surface for many, many, many people. So we're going to do this activation now for the collective to shift a consciousness out of one that is oriented toward having to rob one's soul to make a living into a paradise, heaven on earth, and that is, I have a friend who has it's called Project Heaven on Earth. So it does exist. We can create a new reality here on this planet. So if you can, allow yourself now in this next invocation to just once again close your eyes, turn within, breathing down, all the way down, back into second chakra, back into your pelvic cavity. Taking another nice deep breath. And filling this space once again with radiant light. Radiant light. And from this radiant light that you are, start moving that energy of intention of radiant light, radiant love, unconditional love out to every human on the planet who is in a job of some kind that is harming them at a soul level or at a physical level. We send this love. We surround the entire planet, the entire globe, with this beautiful radiant light. I want to start by actually I'm getting to bring in the violet ray, because the violet ray transmutes old beliefs. So we're going to literally surround our globe with this violet ray. And see it dissolving an old paradigm around survival. Seeing it dissolving, surrounding children all over the planet that are in peril. And now envisioning the new world, envisioning a planet where children are thriving, where they're safe, where they're supported, where their parents are supported so they don't have to make hard choices. Envisioning that new world and what the planet in your vision is now being created into, being birthed into. And just notice if there's anything else that wants to come through you into this divine matrix. You are a part of this huge paradigm on the planet. Now coming back into your pelvic cavity and feeling your power. Now that we've done all that clearing work and activated a new creation story for you, really feeling your base of your spine supported, all the way up the spine, so that your entire spine also is supporting your body in a new way, so that your creativity can really shine its light. So just experiencing yourself sending out more radiant light into the world and into your next day. Letting that light, just envisioning whatever tomorrow is going to be. If you know what you have on your agenda for tomorrow, envisioning this new you, expressing whatever it is you'd be doing, but from this new self. This vibrant, creative, juicy self. And taking another nice deep breath. And just repeating the affirmation. And this is the affirmation for this next 2 weeks. It is now safe and easy for me to be my creative self. It is now safe and easy for me to express my creative self. Everywhere I go. Just notice how that feels. Repeating that again. It is now safe and easy for me to express my most creative self everywhere I go. I'm going to close with the Native American ho, sprinkling fairy dust onto all of you as you move out into the next 2 weeks. And if you want to engage with me again, we're going to be doing another activation on the new moon in Gemini in 2 weeks. Thank you for joining me.